Good morning, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group with your morning market rundown and a quick look at the overnight markets. We have not a bunch of crazy movers. Looks like a consolidation day so far pre-market across the board. Nikkei was down about 40 basis points. We have Hang Seng was down a little bit as well, down about 30 basis points. Shanghai was down about 80 basis points, so giving back a little bit of yesterday's gains. We can look at Europe as well, down a little bit again, kind of similar theme kind of playing out globally. So Euro Stoxx down about 60 basis points, DAX down about 80 basis points. Let's go ahead and we'll look at some of the indices. Let me just bring this over. First things first, Home Depot had earnings. They are up from 122.85 up to 127. So real nice beat across the board. Didn't see anything really unusual with their quarter. A beat on the bottom line, top line, and they also, I believe, they announced a dividend increase as well. While I have each Home Depot up, futures now just down about 10 basis points. Not really a big mover. Still have this interesting line that I have drawn from really a lot of consolidation on this uptrend line. Let me just point this out to you guys. Just something, if you zoom out here, this is, you can see just a ton of consolidation around this uptrending line. This is where I've kind of drawn this back here. The last time, once we moved down, we moved back up, down, back up, and we seem to be kind of moving right along this particular line. So we are trying to get outside of the value area. We did that yesterday. We didn't close, doesn't look like we closed above it. So it looks like we're having a little bit of a difficulty, and this has been the case over the last 3 or 4 sessions with the top of the value area. So is this as far as we're going to get to? Not sure, but I would continue to watch this 1930-40 level. If we can get above 1934, why don't I go to the S&P? Excuse me. If we can get above 1934, we've got a little bit more room to run. I think some people are saying 2000. However, it remains to be seen whether or not, it seems like a lot of resistance right around this level. And as you could see with the previous chart that I had up with the value area. So something to watch out for. NASDAQ and IWM look a little bit stronger in my opinion. NASDAQ, not a lot of consolidation. Very similar. The point of control is acting as resistance on NASDAQ, but a lot of consolidation right around this level. So will be an interesting area of whether or not we can build away from it. But for right now, today looks like an inside day, just giving back a little bit of yesterday's gains. But I think that'll be the key thing is if we can punch above. One chart before I go to today's movers, something that I've been watching. Why don't I bring this up on Bloomberg? We've seen a lot of these areas that have kind of come back from the lows with energy moving from the lows. One area that really hasn't, which I have my eye on, is the regional banks, something I've been watching for the last couple of weeks. Almost looks like, let me just change this here. Almost looks like a inverted head and shoulders. It's not complete yet, but something to keep an eye on. It has rallied from the lows, but I think it could maybe rally to the 50-day moving average if the major indices cooperate, and as well as if oil if the volatility continues to come out of oil and it bases a little bit, perhaps we can see a move higher in the banking group. But we'll see. So a couple of things to watch before I kind of dip my toe into regional banks. Watching the move in oil, of course. Let's see where oil is first, and also watching the move in a lot of the other metals. Oil was down this morning, but has come back. There we go, Thinkorswim. So here's where we were on the lows of the session, right around here, but we have come back a little bit here, trying to get into the value area. So not a big day right now, and I think that's why we're seeing, some of the indices started to go down lower, but really continue to track oil, even though that the volatility has been coming out of oil. Let's just go through and look at a bunch of other the commodities and what they're doing this morning. Copper not really doing much, down about 40 bips, very close to what oil is doing. Nat gas is actually up 1%. And then what everybody's been kind of watching, oil, excuse me, not oil, gold is up about another percent. Really interesting I'm finding is that money continues to be added to gold ETFs. We continue to see more calls being bought than puts. And, if you look at the biggest inflow yesterday was GLD in ETFs as well as IAU. Always good to watch. There's another ETF out there called IAU, which has a lower management fee than GLD. So a lot of long onlys like to play IAU. But you can see another $867 million being added to gold. And it looks like it's, what I've been seeing as well when oil is down, it seems like there's people who are coming in and buying the dip in oil. But another $867 million being added into GLD. GLD is actually has seen more inflows than any other ETF this year. So again, something to keep an eye on, as well as GDX. I think on dips, these are good areas to buy. Let's take a look at the chart of GDX. Has been grinding, after this big move higher, has been consolidating a bit, coming off from overbought levels. So something to keep an eye on. If you look at GLD or GDX, excuse me, over time, let's look at the 5-year. You could see that it's coming out of this bearish, very bearish trend. So, I think it could push higher. Right now it's about 1853, a nice move from the lows, but I think it could have more room to run. All right, so let's go over the what do we want to go to next? Let's look at the upgrades and downgrades for the day. It seems like a lot more downgrades today, which is kind of the opposite of yesterday. So market up, upgrades, market down a little bit, a lot of downgrades. AbbVie raised to buy at Citi. Interesting. Twitter raised to outperform. If you start to look at a chart of Twitter, it does look like it's got some oomph to it lately from the lows. Bollinger Band opening up here to the top side. So it has done this before and rolled over. I would watch the top of value. That's about 1930. So it does look like there's a little bit of momentum from the lows here in Twitter. So something to continue to watch as it was upgraded this morning. Cheniere Energy raised to buy versus neutral at Goldman, a big activist name. So again, only a few upgrades on the list. Chipotle cut to sell. That was a big one this morning. Dune Foods cut to hold. They had earnings the other day. Exelon cut to sell at Citi. Fitbit had earnings last night. They're down about 15%. They were cut across the board. Sector weight, Pacific Coast, Stifel, cut to hold, and then also cut to market reform at Lyric. So not so great news for Fitbit this morning. Other than that, Solar City cut to neutral at JP Morgan. A few initiations, didn't see anything that mind-blowing here. UPS assumed underweight at Morgan Stanley. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Freeport-McMoRan cut to sell, even though it says initiation. And they said that they're cutting it to sell. FedEx is assumed equal weight at Morgan Stanley. So equal weight for FedEx and underweight for UPS. So something to keep an eye on. Transports. Everybody's been talking about the move up in transports. It's something I think, again, kind of keep an eye on. This was one of the first groups to show that there was a little bit of a crack going on. Take a look at the move from the lows to where it is now in IYT. So I'm not sure yet if this move should be faded yet, but so right now I'm just kind of watching IYT. Maybe perhaps thinking about selling some call spreads up here, because I don't see anything majorly changing with the economy. Speaking of the economy, let's see what economics are out this morning. Case-Shiller's out momentarily. It's about 8 minutes away. And then we've got some numbers after the open, which I always like. It gets a little bit more exciting once these numbers come out after the open. Consumer confidence and existing home sales. So we do have some home data out this morning. Let's just take a quick look at some of the other movers this morning. And that'll be it for today. Let's see. LNG, we mentioned them. They're up 8%. Macy's as well. Nice move up here, 5.5% from reporting earnings this morning. Some decent numbers taking place here. Low, a little bit of some pin action from the HD earnings. They also report this week. A lot of smaller cap names here listed. I'm not going to go through all of these. Fit, we talked about them. WDC, Western Digital down 8%, buying SanDisk. So I didn't see this headline yet. Have to investigate that. FCX downgraded at Citi. Mentioned that one. So SanDisk, so interesting. Both of these names are down. SanDisk and Western Digital. I'm not sure what gives with. Usually, when there's a merger announced, they go up, but at least one of them goes up. MT also downgraded at Cohen, and then indicated down. Chegg, that was on the previous list. So that's about it. Nothing, a lot of small caps mentioned in here. So so that's it. Let's just take one more look at S&P futures. They are getting a bit, so coming back to flat now. So S&P, so a nice starting point for the day if we kind of hold right here. So that's it for the morning rundown. Keep an eye on what oil is doing. Of course, we have some economic numbers out at 10 o'clock Eastern. So have a great day and good luck trading today.